In this video, I want to talk about two special right triangles. The first one is called a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So let's draw what this is. We have our right angle here. All of the angles together have to add up to 180. If this is 90 degrees, then these two have to add up to 90 as well. So a 45, 45, 90 triangle is simply making these two angles equal to one another. And 90 degrees, that's what we have left over after we subtract 90 degrees from 180, the total for the angles. 90 degrees divided by 2 is 45. So if you want to have these two angles equal to one another in a right triangle, it has to be 45 degrees for each one. Now, what's special about this is if these two angles are the same, then these two sides are the same. So whatever this side is, let's just say it's x, well, this side is x as well. If this is 17, that's 17. If this is 3.26, that's 3.26. So let's take a look at the Pythagorean theorem and see what this means for the hypotenuse. Both of our legs are x. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared. C is our hypotenuse. We don't want c squared though, we just want c, so we're going to take the square root. The square root of 2, we can't really simplify that any further, but the square root of x squared is simply x. And the square root of c squared is c. So what this is telling us is our hypotenuse is the square root of 2x. So this is kind of a shortcut. If you recognize you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, you don't actually have to go through the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what your hypotenuse is. If you know that this side is, let's just say that x equals 7, well, your hypotenuse equals the square root of 2 times 7. All right, let's look at a second special triangle. The second one is 30, 60, 90. Now, before we look at the 30, 60, 90 triangle, what I first want to do is look at an equilateral triangle. So an equilateral triangle is a triangle where all the angles are the same. And if there's 180 degrees in a triangle, and there's 3 angles, that must mean each of these 3 angles is 60 degrees. Which means that all 3 of these sides are the same length. I'm going to say that each side is 2x, and you'll see why I chose 2x instead of just x in a minute. Okay, so if all the angles are the same, all the sides are the same. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equilateral triangle and I'm going to cut it in half. So 3 things happen when I cut it in half. Let's focus on the left side of this equilateral triangle. First of all, we created a right angle right here. So here is our right triangle. So that's the first thing, we've created a right angle. Next thing is this line at the bottom, or this side of the triangle at the bottom, we've cut it in half. So this length right here is 2x divided by 2, which is simply x. And then the third thing we've done is we've cut this angle in half. It was 60, now it's 30. So here's our 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. And let me rewrite it over here so you can see it a little bit easier. Here's our 90. Here's our 60. Here's our 30. The hypotenuse is 2x. The side across from the smallest angle, 30, is x. So you can see the hypotenuse is double this side. And the question is, what is that side? So in order to figure this out, we're going to go back to the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to say that this is side A, but it really doesn't matter. We could have said that this was side A. These really are interchangeable. So I'm going to say side A is the x. We have x squared. Side B, that's what we're trying to figure out. So I'm going to leave that alone for right now. And then the hypotenuse is c. We can't really simplify the left side. 2x all squared becomes 4x squared. Oops, I forgot the squared right there. I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. That goes away, and I end up with b squared equals 4x squared minus 1x squared is 3x squared. And we want to know not b squared, but just b. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. b equals the square root of 3. Can't really simplify that any, but the square root of x squared is x. So our side b is the square root of 3x. So again, this is just a shortcut to using the Pythagorean theorem. If you know you have a 30, 60, 90 triangle, you don't actually have to go through and solve the Pythagorean theorem. As long as you know one side, you can figure out the other sides from this relationship.